Is this the single greatest individual piece of design ever? Yes, this, the humble paperclip. But how can this possibly be the greatest design ever? When we've walked on the moon, flown across the Atlantic Ocean in 3 hours, sent explorers to the bottom of the sea, we can communicate instantaneously with people on the other side of the planet, the internal combustion engine, rockets, microprocessors, the wheel. Indeed, all of these are milestones that have invariably changed human behaviour and the world we live in. However, I didn't say most important, most revolutionary, most impactful, most game-changing. I said greatest. To justify my statement, we should begin with its history. This humble design first appeared in around 1880, and here's what it looked like back then. And now? Now let's compare that to a train from 1880 to 2020. And a car, and a watch, and a boat, and even a shoe. Everything evolves over time. Even if some things haven't changed that dramatically in look, like the tin can or coat hanger, it has still had many incremental streamlining changes and improvements to bring it up to where we are today. Beyond the aesthetics of something, the materials have also developed drastically. The Paperclip's design literally hasn't changed in 140 years. It is still a single piece of 99mm or 4-inch steel wire with a diameter of 1mm turned 3 times on itself to create the iconic shape. Last year in the USA alone, 11 billion paperclips were purchased. That's 35 for every man, woman and child in the country. If you were to link these 11 billion paperclips together in one gargantuan chain, it would be so long it would be able to go around the Earth's equator 9 times. And that's just the paperclips purchased in the US in 1 year. I struggle to think of anything that is still in common usage unchanged in 140 years. I can think of one thing designed in the 1920s that comes close, but it's very obscure and nowhere near as ancient. If you can think of anything, please comment below. I'd love to know what it is. So who is responsible for this particular piece of design mastery? Conducting a quick Google search will lead you to this man, Johann Favour, and to a population who are exceptionally proud of him for inventing said paperclip. They even have a giant paperclip statue that immortalizes his design genius. It sits at almost 7 meters or 23 feet tall. It was installed on a college campus near Oslo in honour of Favour, 90 years after his invention was first patented. But ironically, this monument doesn't depict what Favour patented. This is Favour's design. He patented in 1901, a full 20 years after the design we know and love today was first being produced. I believe some of the mysticism and affection around the paperclip in Norwegian culture comes from it being adopted as a sign of resistance in the Second World War by the oppressed population. During the war, the occupying Nazis banned all depictions of Norwegian national pride or patriotism. The population began to wear paperclips on their lapels to show rejection of Nazi ideologies and unity with their fellow Norwegians. Aside from wearing a single paperclip on their lapels, they also fashioned various paperclip accessories, such as bracelets and necklaces. The bracelets were the most popular symbol, which showed that Norwegians were symbolically bonded together in the face of adversity. Favour's design never did get manufactured and sold. His patents ultimately expired, but that did not stop countless encyclopedias from giving him the credit for the invention of the paperclip. The actual history of the paperclip is a very complicated one that again goes to show why the paperclip design we have today is an example of perfect design. Between the late 1860s all the way up to the 50s, there have been over 50 designs for paper fastening devices patented and brought to market. Every shape explored and tested, curves added, curves taken away, ergonomics improved, tapered designs, grooved, aesthetic flourishes, different materials, anything to try and win market share. And of course, in early 1880, this design. The exact date of its introduction is disputed, however we do know that in 1883, due to this advertisement, it was already in mass production, and was quickly becoming the preferred paper fastener in North America and Europe. Interestingly, this design was never patented, and this is another demonstration of why it's considered a perfect piece of design. It wasn't first or last, it didn't have a patent that stopped other forms of bent wire paper fasteners coming to market, it didn't monopolise, it didn't have a Razzie marketing campaign, no backhanders to incentivise offices to purchase their paperclip design over others. Its success is purely down to the merit of its design, and this being the optimal way to fulfil the design brief. So why is it so perfect? What are the elements that make up its success and longevity? Why was there this sudden boom in paperclip design? Until the mid-1800s, if you wanted to fasten 2 pieces of paper together, you used a pin, a standard, sharp, pointy pin, As you can imagine, in the world before computers, there were a lot of papers that meant a lot of pins that people invariably impaled their fingers on. There was a recognised need for a new product that could allow people to quickly and easily fasten pieces of paper together without causing themselves injury. And it was a development in the steel industry that allowed this want to be fulfilled. The paperclips had to wait until the availability of the right steel wire and delicate machinery to bend and form the wire into a desired design. And it is that steel wire that is the first ingredient to this design. As with all good design, it is fundamentally down to the materials chosen, and in this case, steel is perfect. It has enough flex to allow the paper to slide into it, but enough rigidity to return to its original shape. The friction coefficient of the steel stops the paper from sliding out until required, without needing excessive force or damaging the paper. The second ingredient of this design is the design itself. As we have seen, every possible configuration has been tried and tested, forgetting the countless designs were invariably flung to the wayside or never made it past the sketch. In the last century, so many new paperclips have been brought to market, and each time they have failed to take this champion's title. In evolutionary terms, it is indeed a case of the survival of the fittest. The gem company who first manufactured this design have even attempted on several occasions to supersede this design with newer improved models, each time failing to beat the original design. The third ingredient for a successful design is efficient manufacturing. Creating a design intended for mass production and distribution, but having to charge $100 per unit can't work. Having the ability to create tens of thousands of paperclips an hour without employing a workforce allows you to keep production costs at an absolute minimum, which in turn keeps the price of each unit at a minimum. So important is this, that although the gem paperclip design isn't patented, the machinery to make said design is. In 1899, a patent was granted to William Middlebrook of Waterbury, Connecticut on April the 27th of that year for a machine for making wire paperclips. The drawing clearly shows that the product is a perfect match for the gem type. As you can see, having such a simple manufacturing process is its trump card. Looking back at some of its competitors, their added manufacturing complexity only hampered their ability to catch on. Every extra turn of the wire adds time, raw materials, extra tooling costs, each chipping away at its profitability and pushing up their per unit cost. Getting all of these elements right has tethered the paperclip to our culture. It has become so much more than a tool for holding sheets of paper together. From an icon of resistance in World War II to a tool for any number of activities. Removing SIM cards, picking locks, appearing in movies, art, fashion. Yes, that's a Tiffany paperclip for $1,500. And even as currency, as Carl McDonald demonstrated when he famously traded a paperclip for a house. It is even used in a thought experiment in an obscure way to demonstrate the danger of AI. In the Paperclip Maximizer, the scenario describes an advanced artificial intelligence tasked with manufacturing paperclips. If such a machine were not programmed to value human life, or to use only designated resources in bounded time, then given enough power, its optimized goal would be to turn all the matter in the universe, including human beings, into either paperclips or machines which manufacture paperclips, thus destroying our society. There is even National Paperclip Day on May the 29th. And of course, who could forget this guy, the Jar Jar Binks of the computing world. In the digital age we now live in, as we enter this decade where we were promised flying cars, commercial spaceflight, and hoverboards, the paperclip has taken on a new lease of life as a universal symbol that transcends language, cementing itself further in our culture. If you ask anyone under the age of 20 what this is, they will say the save icon, whereas this is still the paperclip. Maybe in another 100 years, with modern offices around the world becoming paperless, it will be known only as the attachment icon. Could the designer have thought their design would still be in every office in the world? So as a single piece of design, what is so special about it? In my opinion, nothing. Nothing is special about it. There is no flair, no aesthetic indulgence. It is what it is. And that's exactly why it's an example of perfect design. Unimprovable, unchanging, humble, timeless. And as the great Dieter Rams once said, good design is unobtrusive, honest, durable, thorough. Most of all, good design is as little design as possible. It becomes invisible. And the paperclip to me optimizes that statement. It truly is a piece of invisible design. Thank you for watching and hello! Welcome to a new YouTube channel focused purely on design and the designs that make up the world we live in. I hope you enjoyed that video on the paperclip, and people have the cheek to call me design nerd. So why start a YouTube channel on design? Well, I have been a professional designer for 15 years and am now currently the creative director and member of the board at an international agency. I've worked on projects from the Olympics, movies, World Cups, automotive, aeronautical, all the way to furniture design, layout, logos and websites. This has given me a unique behind-the-scenes insight into the world of design that I want to share. So please subscribe and get on at the ground floor and join me on this design odyssey. See you in the next one.